Hi and welcome to Createschool Radio. On this show, we celebrate the creativity of some of the hard-working students that we meet on a weekly basis around Ireland. Whether it's through our on-site workshops in their schools or online through our creative digital media skills courses. We deliver workshops in a whole range of creative digital skills, including podcasting, music production, stock. We're always delighted with the level of imagination, confidence and willingness to learn the students we work with possess, and we're equally delighted to share their work with you. I'll also be interviewing Peter Baxter, the Managing Director of experiences over the past 2 decades, delivering workshops. First, we're going to hear a trailer for a podcast called Mythical Rewind made by Nicole in St. Mary's Arklow. This was made around
You've heard of the legends of Dracula and Frankenstein, but have you heard of the Black-Eyed Children or the Hawkman? Well, we have the podcast for you. Mythical Rewind will leave you hanging on the edge of your seat. Listen to us on Spotify or find us at www.mythicalrewind.com. Beware! We will sell you a dream and deliver a nightmare. Here it is Halloween all year round.
Next up, we have a radio drama from Danny in Holy Rosary College. In our podcasting workshops, we ask our students to script and record their own radio drama and then add accompanying music and sound effects. This is Danny's radio drama.
How did this apocalypse start again? Okay, that's kind of rude. Jesus Christ! Oh, a car. Sometime later. Hey, watch out for the train! Oh, God. Several hours of driving later. Oh, hey, you, get in the car, quick, there's a zombie apocalypse.
I will kill you.
Oh,
Next, we're heading to Ashbourne Community School, where Nick is going to talk to us about the new MacBook Pro M1 series and give his opinion on whether you should snap one up or wait to buy it.
Hello everybody, and welcome to nicktechreviews.com, a podcast where you can learn all about the top-notch latest tech from around the whole world. Today we'll be talking about the all-new MacBook Pro 2021 M1 series. And is the all-new MacBook Pro 2020 M1 a take or win? Well, we're gonna have to find out. As most of you know, Apple has announced their newest MacBooks M1 series in the November 2020 MacBook event. In this event, Apple announces not one, not two, but 3 of their new products. They are the Mac Mini, MacBook Air, and the mighty Mac Pro, all with some major upgrades. We know that the Mac has always had bold changes, and this year it's no different, but also better. In June, Apple transferred to Mac Silicon, and now on 10th of November 2020, Mac started making their own blaze fast M1 CPUs into their latest computers. Yep, that's the major evolutionary upgrade of these all-new Macs. Apple states that the 13-inch MacBook Pro is the best-selling notebook in its class, and that with the new M1 chip, the MacBook Pro becomes way more powerful. Apparently, the new 8-core CPU delivers 2.8 times faster performance, which allows programs to code nearly 3 times faster with Xcode, Apple's developing software. On the other side, photographers using Photoshop can now edit faster than ever with the new 8-core GPU. It comes with 16GB of fast LPDDR4X RAM, running at a whopping 3733 MHz, which allows you better video editing and multitasking. Also, there are faster storage upgrades and a wider variety ranging from 512GB SSD to 2TB of SSD. The new Apple MacBook Pro M1 series can do some things that other laptops in its category can't do, like playing back 8K video footage with zero lag. Now you might ask, but wow, with all this intense processing and demanding work, how does the battery hold up? Well, you're in luck, because this year, the new MacBook series has a new super efficient battery upgrade, which allows you to surface the web for 17 hours and 20 hours for video playback. That's 10 hours more than the previous 2020 MacBooks. Speaking of battery, the new MacBook Pro M1 series doesn't overheat anymore, thanks to its new active cooling system, which allows it to smash any of its tasks while maintaining a stable temperature. For some, this will be bad news, as you can't cook an egg on your computer anymore. Finally, the new MacBook M1 series has 2 Thunderbolt ports with USB 4 support, which means that you can connect more peripherals than ever, like the Pro Display XDR at full resolution. You get Wi-Fi 6, the fastest Wi-Fi connectivity out there on all new M1 Macs for faster internet speed and quality. This year, the design is however the same, which is good, as it has the same familiar body while packed with tremendously upgraded specs. Now both the look and feel and the performance upgrades wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the all-new Big Sur macOS 11 update. This new software has much more optimization and feature improvements which enhances your experience. All this comes at a whopping price of €1,100.17 for regular people, and just €1,015.45 for students. This is the base model. Now, with all that in mind, let's compare it to last year's MacBook Pro 2020. The 2020 Intel MacBook Pro, as you read, has an Intel processor, which is the Intel Core i5 10th generation, running at 2 GHz and Turbo Boost up to 3.8 GHz. It comes with Intel Iris Plus graphics, 16GB of same fast LPDDR4X memory running at 3733 MHz, 412 of SSD, 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, a stylish touch bar and Touch ID, and a sleek looking backlit keyboard. And all that came for an even higher price of €1,811. This is the highest spec model that matches the new MacBook Pro 2020 M1 series spec-wise. There's also a cheaper base model with only 8GB of RAM and 256GB of SSD, and it comes at €1,321. Yikes.
And we'll go back to Nick in a little bit to find out what he decided. Next up, let's head over to St. David's and Greystones to hear from Sarah about the world of baton twirling. This is Give Twirl a Whirl.
Shake that body, 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 shake that body.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Sarah Hayden, your host, and you're listening to the premiere episode of the Give Twirl a Whirl podcast. Now, whether you're a pro twirler, an athlete in training, or just a guy, gal, or non-binary pal who wants to give twirl a whirl, this podcast is for you. And, well, you know, if you stumbled here on accident, please stay. We're very accepting here, and I really need those views. Really. All that said, we've got a fun episode today, so let's get right into it. Today, we will be doing an interview with my dad and coach, the one and only David Hayden, or as his nickname, Big Dave. We will also be hearing from a few baton twirlers about their funniest baton moments. And, as a bonus, if you stick around to the end, I'll even tell you one of my funniest baton moments. We will be right back with David Hayden.
Shake that body, shake that body, shake that body.
This is the Give Twirl a Whirl podcast, and I am here with elite coach David Hayden.
Hi everyone.
It's an honour to have you on the podcast, Coach Dave.
Thanks.
Let's get started with the questions then, shall we? How would you describe your coaching style?
Very technical. I like to really get to know my athletes, to have a relationship with them and to work out what makes them tick. That way I can encourage them to work on what they're good at.
Okay, interesting. Do you ever find yourself picking favourites?
Never. I don't have favourites. I do have relationships with athletes because they'd be there longer and we'd have the same type of personality, but I'd never really have a favourite.
I disagree. Is it hard to see athletes who are raised in the gym leave?
It's my pet hate. I like when I was playing GAA, I was always encouraged to put back in. I think that's very evident in the GAA circle, and I think that's what I like to pride myself on. I try to encourage athletes when they're finished is to stick around, give it back into the club. The club has given so much to you, so give it back in, come down, coach, stick around. It doesn't have to be all the time, but you can help younger athletes, your role models at the end of the day.
Okay, that makes sense. What is one of your proudest moments as a coach?
So many hard to pick, and there's so much more to look forward to at the same time. But as a whole, for me, I really feel proud when we as a club get praise for athletes that do well when they are internationally. We've had some really good moments. Taking back 8 medals from International Cup last year was a proud moment as a club. And it didn't just focus on one person. It was the club that done it. We done it together. Obviously the individuals win it, but we the coaches coached them. We set the platform for them, and it's a proud moment to be praised by international coaches, by international clubs, and by our national coaches and presidents and association to know that you are there giving so much more for your country.
Do you feel like that reflects on you? Like you provided for your country as well?
Well, yeah, we provide our athletes, but they're representing their country and their association. And it's not just me, it's obviously it's your mother, Sarah, as well. So it's Chloe, it's Keen, it's Evie, it's Amy, it was CJ in the past, Jessica, Caroline. We've all given something to provide and just encourage those athletes, and we've all contributed to their development.
By the way, they're all athletes in our club, Rep GBT. Do you ever feel like giving up on an athlete if they're not working hard enough?
Never. Some athletes just take longer to adjust to certain areas of development. You have to encourage and show them that you believe in them. Sometimes they won't believe in themselves, and sometimes it's just a bad day, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But you keep on showing them that you believe in them, they will thrive and they'll get better. Some athletes are competitive athletes and some are recreational athletes, and you have to accept that.
So you never look at an athlete and just think, you are not listening to me. Why? And you just want to throw them out?
Yeah, some days some athletes just drive you up the wrong way, but like they've other things going on in their lives. This is an amateur sport, and they're not elite athletes. Even though as they get older and they represent their country, they act like elite athletes, but that's evident in a lot of amateur sports. But you have to accept sometimes it's just not working out for them, the things in school, the things at home.
Yeah. Do you remember any times as a coach when you laughed when you really shouldn't have?
I'd have to say one of our athletes, I won't name her, but we were down training and she decided to sit in a tyre and she got stuck in the tyre and we had to call the ambulance. to saw her out of the tyre.
And the fire brigade?
And the fire brigade. And they had to cut her out. I shouldn't really laugh, but I couldn't help it.
Everyone was laughing at her.
Yeah, it was a funny moment.
Okay, and lastly, and this one isn't really a question, it's more of a statement. It is true that I'm your favourite athlete.
Obviously, you have to say that.
Yeah. Okay, grand. Confirmed. Everyone knows that, even if you can't accept that. Okay, thank you, Big Dave. It's been very informative getting to know more about you and your coaching. I hope everyone liked the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you?
I think I'll do my own dadcast.
Yeah, dadcast. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
We will be back with you in a few moments with Give Twirl a Whirl. Did you enjoy that interview? Because I certainly did. If you want more episodes like that one, make sure to comment who you want me to interview next. I definitely would not complain if I got to meet some star twirlers. On to the second part of the episode, we have the Twirling Tidbits segment, where you get to send in your twirling stories. This week, funniest baton moments. Firstly, we have an entry from Miss Alice Smith. Alice writes, "The hall that I train in is split into two, with a big mesh I messed that up. That's supposed to be mesh net. We'll ignore that. Mistakes are how you learn. With a big mesh net in the middle. This particular week, my club had decided to pay a special coach to come over from France to train our competitive team. You know, I've always loved when we had special coaches. It made me feel so good. It made me feel like someone cared about us, like we were actually training for something. I agree that that's a great way to train kids and stuff. Anyway, she continues, we were preparing for the European Cup, so this was a very important week. My coaches got us all in a group, told us how important this was, and asked us to act professionally. I obviously didn't get the memo, because I managed to not only get my baton stuck in the net, but I also slipped on the floor and got a concussion. Let's just say Xavier the French fancy didn't want to work with me for a while, and FYI, the baton is still stuck there. You know, the best thing about that, other than Xavier the French fancy, is that this happened to me multiple times, because I managed to get mine stuck in the roof somehow. On lights? I don't know. That's just how it works. For those who don't really know what a baton is, it's like a balanced metal stick with 2 rubber balls on the end. And it manages to get stuck in stuff very, very easily. Nextly, we have Cian Marr. Cian says that at a competition last year, one of his teammates was sick, but nationals were on that weekend. And she was just expected to push through that. And she did, or she tried to. Throughout the whole 3-minute routine, she was holding in her puke. Okay, warning for anyone who is squeamish, this one looks like it might be a bit disgusting. Thankfully, she was a good sport and waited until after the routine to spew. As we all sat in our finishing poses, she leapt up from her pose and started waddling away. We all thought she was going to make it to the bathroom until we noticed the trail of vomit coming from her mouth, all over the competition floor. Keep in mind, we had to walk off that floor and dodge the sick along the way. Let's just say she lost some dignity that day. Yeah, I'd say she lost some dignity. I have a story like that. I'm going to do this a lot. I have so many baton stories. When I was younger, I was 10, I used to go away to all the different competitions, even if I wasn't old enough to compete, because my parents are both coaches, and they all had, they had athletes to bring there, so I had to go, because no one would mind me. And I remember we were going to Slovenia one year, and I was so sick that they had to call a doctor to make sure I could still fly. And he was like, yeah, you can fly, you're just going to be sick everywhere. And I was. And every second we walked, I would have to sit down for a few minutes because I kept getting sick. It was horrible. It was the worst experience of my life. Okay, lastly, we have an entry from Amy Sweeney. She says, I remember when I was at International Cup, we got a pro twirler here, some of the officials that were working on set numbers, okay, sorry to interrupt again. For those of you who don't know, your set number is basically the order in which you compete in. She says they mixed up her set number and told her to go on a set before she was actually supposed to perform. She says, I was so confused when there were no available spots to twirl in, until I heard my coaches and all of the Ireland supporters yelling at me to get off the floor. By this point, the competition had started and people were twirling, while I was standing there like an idiot. I ended up running off and I completely embarrassed myself in front of thousands of spectators. I feel that it's such a big no-no to be on the floor in baton. Like when people are competing, it's so bad. You're not allowed to walk around or anything because it's a distraction and the athletes can't get distracted. And if they do, those athletes will have to compete again. And they'll be so angry because they're like, why would you walk? I'm competing. Yeah, I get that. Like I have a similar story to like messing up, like the staff messing up. For some reason, they set the competition floor backwards at one of my competitions. And I was like 10, so I didn't know they were going to do that. I was so confused. And the elite athletes, they were grand. They went on, not a bother. I ended up standing backwards. I stopped halfway through and I made them let me go again, which is not allowed. And then, needless to say, my coaches had a talk with me about appropriate competition etiquette because I nearly got disqualified. They didn't disqualify me because I was 10, but if I did that when I was any older, I was gone. Now, did you find those stories as funny as I did? Because if you did, you should comment. And you should comment your own baton stories. Whatever you want, anything that comes to mind. It doesn't matter if it's scary, ugly, fails, I don't care. Do it. Okay, finally, as promised, here's my funniest baton story. Right. So, if you know baton, we have very, very tight costumes. And we sweat a lot when we compete. It's disgusting. And people don't think we do because we're supposed to be pretty dancers. We sweat a lot. It's gross. It drips. It's gross. And when you add that to the tight costumes, you've got a very, very sticky situation. You know, I'm a pretty high up athlete. I do a lot of routines. I'm expected to compete all the time, always on the move. And last year, I had a team at 2:45 and then a group number at 2:52. And that was the time frame I had to compete, get my hair done, get my makeup done, and go back onto the competition arena. It was crazy. I remember sprinting through the athletes, plowing into them. The poor yokes didn't even know what was coming, pushed them over, hurt them. They probably were so confused why these screaming Irish children were running into them. In the dressing room, my teammates who were like not competing, they had to come up to me. They ripped off my costume. People were holding up my bra. People were wiping my face, brushing my hair, like pushing me around, sticking bobby pins into me. And now, if you picture that with the previous point of the tight costume and the sweat, can you picture that? Do you get it now? The costume wouldn't come off. It wouldn't. There was no way it was coming off because I had 4 minutes. I was drenched in sweat and I couldn't get it off. So they had to cut it. They chopped the costume off and it was so expensive. It was like €300 and they'd sew it back together because I couldn't get it off. It was horrible. There were hands everywhere. It was the weirdest moment of my life, honestly. I literally did nothing. I just stood there and it was the most chaotic moment. And I'm sure most of you doubted me and my squad, but we made it. I really made it to that floor in like 5 minutes. You know, in my humble opinion, I think that really secures Irish superiority. We're so superior that we were able to do that. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in to Give Twirl a Whirl. Thanks, twirler guys and gals and non-binary pals. And if you enjoyed it, please make sure to follow this podcast and tune in next week, where I will be discussing the pros and cons of flexibility. And that sounds all serious, but I will be featuring some very special guests who are experts in flexibility, and you won't find out until you tune in next week. So please do. Thank you, and see you next week.
Shake that body, 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 shake that body.
Next up, we have an interview with Peter Baxter, the director of Createschool. Peter founded Createschool nearly 20 years ago and has been delivering workshops both on-site and online since then. Peter's going to tell us about how things have changed over the last 2 decades and why it's important to him to deliver creative digital skills workshops to young people across the country. Okay, Peter, welcome to Createschool Radio.
Thank you.
We thought it might be interesting for the students to kind of get a background on the workshops and the work that you and Createschool do. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of hoping that you'd give us a little bit of a background on the podcast that featured the students' work.
Well, the Song School show started in 2012, and we had actually been making commercial podcasts since about 2007, bizarrely. So we were involved fairly early on in being asked to make. We had a recording studio at that stage, so we were asked to make podcasts, and then we did several different ones. We did a really interesting project called the iWalk series for Dublin Tourism, and then later on for Fulcher Island. And from that, we started thinking this is a great project to take into schools. And that's how the podcasts themselves started. And then with Song School, it was coming to the stage where the students were writing songs, and there was no way for anyone beyond their own gang of friends or their teachers or anyone to hear them, really. So we thought, why not showcase them as a podcast? And that's really the background of all of the workshops.
Brilliant.
Being shared. Yeah.
And I suppose it's a great incentive then for students to actually go online and hear their work back as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because effectively you can be in school and make a podcast, and then by the time you get home, in theory, the podcast could be shared and be available. So it's pretty cool to be able to show your family and friends what you made that day.
That's brilliant, yeah. Obviously, over the last year, things have changed in the way workshops are being delivered. But in regards to technology and things like that you use in your workshops, has it changed much over the past 2 decades?
100%. It has changed. In fact, if it's possible to give more than 100% in a score, I would say that. Maths isn't my strong point, but it isn't. Yeah, it has, because if you think back when we started doing the recording workshops, even in schools, there was a boot full of gear in terms of synthesizers, digital workstations, everything, electronic drum prototypes, you name it. There was everything. All of that effectively is now available as an app, something like GarageBand or BandLab that you can put on your phone. So, yeah, amazing.
Has it always been recording in some form, or at the start where the Song School workshops were obviously live performance workshops more so, were they?
Well, there were. I suppose there's two different elements of writing, and to go back to the source of it, what the workshop started out as being, and they still are in their core essence, is to encourage people to creatively express themselves. You know, we don't say that this is a masterclass in songwriting. It's not. It's a masterclass maybe in creativity, or if it was in anything. And so the idea is that people tap into that and they explore their own creativity is really what we're about. The benefit of recording is that I was always taught that recording was a tool, and it is. You know, so if you're writing a song, it's a really logical extension to experiment and record your songs if you're doing it creatively. Whereas the live element is a different thing again entirely. And not everyone's as comfortable playing live or performing. So it was always important that we had some other element, some other way of capturing the songs.
Why is it important then to introduce the creative digital media skills to young people? Why is that important to you?
I think the bottom line with that is that we are all living in an age where digital screens are everywhere. And the easiest thing, we're also self-conscious now about how much time we spend online, and we're getting notifications and we're getting different apps and different technologies vying for our attention. So we're very much in a consumer-based approach. And what I would really like our stuff to be, or the essence of what we do, is that it's turning from consumer to creator. So we're saying to young people or old people or anybody that what we want is what about making your own content and sharing it out there and using technology as a vehicle to do that.
Great. And looking back over the last 2 decades then of Createschool, is there any workshops or anything you've kind of worked on that sticks in your mind as a unique experience?
Wow, what a question. Yeah, everything. I mean, there's loads of different projects. The difference in a project sometimes as opposed to a workshop is that often in a workshop we're in contact with students for a day, 2 days. And one of the good things about the current system where we're delivering online a lot is that we get to know students a bit longer, because you're probably dealing with them over 6 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever it might be. So a project's different, because a project you would often have a number of days or a longer period of time to work with people, and you really get to develop a different relationship. you get to see more of the work. People open up a bit more to us, and we have a chance to do the same with them. You know, you build relationships. That's with young people, old people, with anyone. You know, it's just natural that you do. So, do any stick out? Just because of the sheer fact that we would have had more time. Some of the projects, we tend to get a lot more done in a project as well.
Yeah.
But I love workshops too. I think that's a really interesting opportunity to spark some creativity within people. Or, you know, you see the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Often.
It's a really rewarding moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what makes the job what it is.
I find that as well when I'm delivering the workshops. That you kind of come away at the end of the day. Some kid comes up and says, "I really enjoyed that," you know. And you know then that you like you said, switched on the light bulb. It's great.
Well, we've had it done to us. I was in school. I remember my light bulb workshop in a school, which was probably the core reason that I started doing this. You know, just teaching. We in an English class one time we brought in some albums, and they had to actually bring in a stereo from home. You know, like bring in the speakers. We had to go to the car and help them bring it in, set it up, play. But we did 2 songs in English class for like the equivalent of leaving cert, a higher English class, and we went through the song lyrics as almost poetry, you know, to study them. And to me, I thought, wow, I want to write songs.
Yeah.
And that was like a double period one Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
So we've all had those.
We have, yeah. I think everyone can probably pinpoint something that's happened in their life that's kind of set them on a creative path, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting light bulb moments, but vice versa from the students themselves. And when I'm in a workshop, they'll say, "Oh, well, you know, I could spend 20 minutes explaining something," and somebody will turn around and say, "Oh, you know what? There's another way of doing that." And I'm like, "All right, okay, I knew that." But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you're always learning, and that's
this is it.
I carry a notebook with me.
Yeah.
I'm old school. Write down because you get so many great ideas.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, it's fantastic when that happens. Okay, and last question then, Peter. What are you looking forward to then in the future in regards to Createschool and where it's going and how it will develop?
I think just to keep developing new ideas ourselves, because that makes it really interesting. And for us as creative, we're all creative practitioners. Anyone that works with us, we're an educator first and foremost, but we're also at our core, we're creatives. We're all doing something, drawing. I know I'm involved in music, so are you. Some of the guys are involved in film and all animation, lots of different elements. So I think it's always interesting to look at developing new ways of new content for courses and new ways of delivering it. One of the really good things with online is that we're able to go to places we've never been to before. So I could be off an island off the coast of Donegal, and then I'm in a classroom in Wicklow, and you know, in an after school group in Carlo. You can be anywhere. I love that element. But you know, you're talking about workshops. What's interesting there, I am in the podcasting workshop. As I say, we're doing that over 10 years. But every day I'm in, and we ask students what podcasts would you recommend, and I'm forever writing them down, then listening to them in the afternoon, and you get turned on to some really interesting podcasts that there's no way I would ever find otherwise, or probably wouldn't. Whatever, I love that.
The same with movie making workshops, and they're recommending films to you. I love all that. So
I still have a list. I have a list that's on my phone that's constantly developing, because so many people have so many great, bank of great films to recommend, or books, or whatever, songs, to everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Peter, for talking to us. And,
thanks, Justin, for listening and talking back.
What I'm hoping to do is interview a few of the tutors from Createschool and ask them their opinions, their experiences. So hopefully it'll be interesting to the students listening in now on what it's like from the other side of the workshop. From the top of the classroom, looking down. But brilliant. Thanks, Peter, and I'll talk to you soon. Yeah.
Take it easy. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Was Peter Baxter, and now we're going to head back over to Nick to see what he decided about the MacBook Pro M1 series.
The question now is, should you be buying last generation's MacBook Pro or the M1 generation MacBook Pro? Honestly, I think you should wait and I have multiple reasons for that. First of all, this is a brand new type of product for Apple, as they only released their first ARM M1 Apple Mac processor. Apple is known for good and premium quality in the recent days, but that wasn't always true. Back when Apple released their first MacBook ever, it had many problems, especially with overheating. And also back when the iPhone 4 was released. Don't even ask me. It was a complete new design and a new type of phone for Apple. And it had many problems with networks until in the end, Apple fixed it all. History repeats itself, and the same is likely to happen here with the new generation M1 chip, as it is completely new, and no one knows what problems are lying ahead. My second reason is that virtualization or changing between different system softwares is going to be much harder in the beginning. Unlike older Macs, the new M1 Macs won't be able to run Windows since it is designed to run on Intel processors for Mac, and now Mac has ARM M processors. There is no way of running Windows yet, and everything needs to be redesigned. However, it was said that Linux will be still able to run and virtualize on Macs with the M1 processors as it supports ARM processors. Again, we have to wait for Apple and Microsoft to solve this. Reason number 3 is apps. Yes, apps. Because again, Apple is making new processors for its Macs, and that means most apps won't be supported as they were designed for different architecture processors. There are a few apps already out, but we still have to wait and see. My final reason is that literally the upgrades on hardware. Yeah, like there is a new fan system on OS, but honestly, some hardware was not upgraded at all and remained the same, if not worse. For example, the webcam is still 720p, as it always was. It's already time to upgrade comparing it to other laptops in its price category. And the RAM or storage. On the older version, you were able to upgrade the RAM all the way to 32GB, but now the max is 16. And also the storage was upgradable to 4TB, and now the max is only 2TB. And the speeds are the same. Come on, Apple. Yeah, I know, it's only Apple's first new generation MacBook with ARM M processors, but seriously, for that price of €1,100, I think there should be some upgrades, or people would just switch to Windows computers, or just keep your older MacBook. Listen, I'm not trying to say that Apple products are bad in any way. Instead, I think Apple has one of the best evolutionary quality and design products out there. It's just a matter of time for this product to get better. My main advice is to keep your older MacBook Pro, any Mac device or Windows device instead of upgrading. If you're a wise consumer, then you would most likely just wait up until March, when A, it gets cheaper, and B, is that most major bugs or problems will most likely get fixed by that time. Look, this is just an advice, and you don't have to listen, as it's your money, and if you want or need something, then you can buy it. It's your choice. Hey, I'm Nick, the Tech Geek, and thank you for listening to our podcast today on nicktechreviews.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube at nicktechreviews.com. Peace.
And that's all for this episode of Createschool Radio. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find out more about what we do, you can check out www.createschool.ie. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll catch you next time.